What if the monsters you fear were designed by your own brain? Carl Jung spent his life mapping the human psyche, and at its center he found the shadow, the dark, repressed part of ourselves we refuse to see. But today, neuroscience is proving Jung was onto something profound. Because fear isn't just psychological, it's biological, neural, chemical. When your amygdala detects a threat, it doesn't ask for permission. It hijacks your body in milliseconds, flooding you with cortisol, spiking your heart rate, priming every muscle for fight or flight. And here's the terrifying part. Your brain doesn't always know when the danger is over. This is where Jung's psychology meets modern neuroscience, where ancient archetypes collide with brain circuitry, and where the shadow becomes not just metaphor, but neurobiology. Right now, as you watch this, your brain is scanning for danger. It's been doing it your entire life. And if you've ever felt trapped by fear, unable to move forward, unable to let go, there's a scientific reason. It's not weakness. It's not all in your head. It's in your biology. And once you understand how it works, you can change it. Fear is not just a feeling. It's a neural reflex older than language itself. When your brain detects danger, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, fires instantly, sending signals down to the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. Your body floods with adrenaline and cortisol. Pupils widen, heart races. Every cell prepares for survival. This system kept your ancestors alive. But here's where psychology and biology meet. When that alarm never powers down, the brain begins to store fear as memory. Circuits in the hippocampus and amygdala start looping, triggering the same reaction long after the danger is gone. Carl Jung understood this over a century ago. He called it the shadow, the part of the psyche we repress, deny, or refuse to face. Jung said, "What you do not make conscious controls you." He believed that unintegrated fear doesn't disappear. It goes underground and rules us from the shadows. Now neuroscience proves he was right. The amygdala stores emotional memories, the hippocampus stores contextual details, and the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes you human, tries to make sense of both. One stores the memory, one sounds the alarm, and one tries to give it meaning. But when trauma occurs, the balance breaks. The alarm takes control, and reason can no longer calm instinct. That's the biology of what Jung called possession by the shadow. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Imagine a child frozen before a classroom, heart pounding, breath shallow. The teacher's voice fades, laughter echoes. In that moment, the amygdala records everything, the light, the sound, the shame, and stores it as danger. Years later, that same person stands to speak at a meeting, and the same alarm rings again. The room has changed, but the brain doesn't know the difference. Or take the driver who survived a crash. Months later, their hands still tremble on the steering wheel. The hippocampus replays the memory like a film stuck on repeat. The body remembers faster than the mind can reason. This is the meeting point of Jung and neuroscience. Jung would say, the shadow has taken over the stage. The unconscious is acting out what the conscious mind refuses to face. Neuroscience would say, the circuits of fear have hijacked perception. The amygdala is overriding the prefrontal cortex. Different languages. Same truth. A part of you is still fighting a war that ended long ago. But here's where it gets powerful. Jung believed transformation comes through what he called integration, bringing the shadow into conscious awareness. He said the goal isn't to destroy the shadow, but to dialogue with it, to understand it, to give it a seat at the table of the self. Neuroscience now maps this process biologically. It's called memory reconsolidation. When you recall an old traumatic memory in a safe environment, the neural network reopens. The amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex all become active. The memory becomes temporarily unstable, plastic. And here's the key. If you pair that memory with new information, calm breathing, safety, compassionate understanding, new synapses form. The emotional charge weakens. The story updates. Jung called this making the unconscious conscious. Neuroscience calls it extinction learning, or reconsolidation, both describe the same miracle. The past can be rewritten by the present. So every time you face what terrifies you and stay present, every time you breathe through the fear instead of running, neurons in the amygdala and hippocampus begin to decouple. The emotional charge fades. New connections form in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that tells the body, this isn't danger anymore. That's neuroplasticity in action. Old fear pathways weakening, new safety pathways growing stronger. A veteran hearing fireworks learns through repetition that the sound no longer predicts harm. A woman once trapped in an elevator practices staying through the rising panic. Each breath, each calm heartbeat, sends inhibitory signals to the amygdala, literally reshaping how the brain tags that memory. Even the chemistry changes. Cortisol and adrenaline decline. Oxytocin and dopamine rise, the molecules of safety and reward. Jung described this as the union of opposites, the conscious mind meeting the unconscious, light integrating darkness. Neuroscience maps it the same way, the limbic system's emotion linking with the cortex's reason, instinct fusing with awareness. This is what Jung meant by individuation, becoming whole by including what we once rejected. And this is what neuroscience means by neural integration, different brain regions firing together, forming a coherent whole. The shadow doesn't vanish, it transforms. Fear doesn't disappear, it gets rewritten. So how do you actually do this? How do you integrate the shadow and rewire the brain at the same time? First, understand that healing requires both awareness and biology. Jung focused on consciousness. Neuroscience focuses on circuits. But the truth is, you need both. Start with the body. Fear lives in your nervous system before it reaches your thoughts. When you're triggered, your body goes into survival mode. Heart rate spikes, breathing shallows, muscles tense. That's the autonomic nervous system taking over. The fastest way to shift it? Breathe. Slow, deliberate exhalations activate the vagus nerve, the biological switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. Try the 4 to 6 method. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6. This ratio directly lowers heart rate and cortisol, signaling your amygdala that you're safe. This isn't meditation, it's physiology. You're hacking your own nervous system. Next, move your body. Jung said, the psyche is not of today. Its ancestry goes back many millions of years. He knew that some fears live deeper than words. They live in the body. Neuroscience confirms this. Trauma gets stored in muscle memory, in the fascia, in the nervous system itself. Gentle movement, yoga, walking, stretching, releases stored adrenaline and allows the body to complete the survival response it couldn't complete during trauma. You're not just exercising, you're discharging frozen energy. Now engage the prefrontal cortex. Jung believed in active imagination, consciously dialoguing with the symbols and figures of the unconscious. In neuroscience terms, you're recruiting the prefrontal cortex to modulate the amygdala. When a trigger appears, pause and label what's happening. This is my amygdala firing. This is my brain trying to protect me. Naming the reaction engages the prefrontal cortex, reducing emotional reactivity by up to 40%. You're creating distance between the stimulus and the response. You're witnessing the shadow instead of being possessed by it. Jung would call this holding the tension of opposites, feeling the fear while simultaneously observing it. Neuroscience calls it affect labeling. Both create the same result. The emotion loses its grip, then bring in meaning. Jung said, the question is not so much what is done to someone, but what one does with what is done to them. This is where psychology transcends biology. The same trauma can destroy one person and forge another, not because the event was different, but because the meaning was different. Journal, meditate, create art, talk to a therapist. Whatever helps you extract meaning from suffering. As you revisit old memories from a grounded, compassionate state, the neural networks of fear reopen and update. You're literally reauthoring the story your brain tells about who you are. This is memory reconsolidation meeting Jungian individuation. Your neurons are changing and your soul is integrating. Finally, connect with others. Jung emphasized that individuation doesn't mean isolation. It means becoming your true self in relationship to others. Neuroscience shows why. Oxytocin released during genuine connection directly counteracts cortisol. Social bonding calms the amygdala and activates the ventral vagal system, the part of your nervous system associated with safety and connection. Healing isn't only inner work, it's relational biology. The nervous system co-regulates through presence, touch, empathy. That's why therapy works. That's why community matters. Your brain literally borrows calm from another person's nervous system until it remembers how to generate its own. Once this process deepens, something remarkable happens. Neuroscientists call it resilient circuitry, the strengthened connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. It's the biological foundation of what Jung called psychological maturity. You still feel fear, but it no longer commands you. You observe it, understand it, honor its message, and let it pass. The alarm still rings, but you're no longer ruled by it. Jung saw this as the goal of individuation. When consciousness expands to include the shadow instead of denying it, the self becomes whole not by perfection but by integration. Science describes the same event as neural integration, different brain regions firing together in harmony. The limbic system and the cortex become allies, not enemies. Emotion and reason learn to collaborate. And in that unity, psyche and synapse, soul and cell, the story of fear transforms into the story of becoming. The same circuits that once carried panic now carry awareness, empathy, and intuition. The same body that once trembled now stands grounded, alert, and alive. Because healing is not a return to innocence. It's the evolution of awareness through biology. Fear gave you data, pain gave you depth, and through both the brain and the soul learned coherence. Jung said it best. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And neuroscience now proves it. Awareness changes structure. Every act of consciousness literally rewires the circuits of fear. Fear was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to protect you, to awaken awareness, to teach resilience. The same circuits that once carried panic can now carry wisdom. You are not at war with your fear. You are learning to speak its language. You're integrating your shadow. You're rewiring your brain. You're becoming whole. And the more you practice this, breath by breath, choice by choice, the quieter the alarm becomes, until one day the shadow doesn't vanish. It stands beside you. It walks with you, in peace. If this resonated with you, if you want to understand how biology explains psychology and what to do about it, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. What's one shadow you're ready to integrate? What's one fear you're ready to transform? Because healing isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of becoming whole.